Welcome to the Tennis Hackery podcast. This is episode number 33. This is a place where we discuss all things about tennis that's related to the fundamentals, fitness, and the mindset aspect of the game. We are coming back after a hiatus of almost 2 to 3 weeks. Our last episode was a blockbuster episode with Coach Craig O'Shaughnessy. Today, we have Coach Craig Lazarchik and Soham with me. Hey guys, how are you guys doing?
Good, Tarun. Good to be here.
As always, same here. Sunday evening, best time for podcasting. End of the week.
Absolutely, yes. And today we have a very special topic. So, Soham, what are we discussing?
We are discussing a topic which is. Uh, uh, I want to give a little bit of background actually. So, a lot of the people struggle with this.
Yep.
A lot of the juniors that I know struggle with this. I also struggle with one of these two things, and I think it's one of the sometimes under practiced and under talked about two of the essential strokes or actions in tennis: the serve and the return of serve. And I thought it would be a good idea that we do an episode where we discuss the serve and the return. And I think it could be beneficial for a lot of the juniors that we coach or um, that we are potentially working with in our at our tennis hackery organization, especially through some analysis that we have done, some data analytics that we have looked at, some patterns and observations that we have made. Definitely feel like this is a topic which would be very, very useful and of high utility to a lot of our the juniors and even adults. So I have a couple of questions to start. I wanted to get some of your opinions and some of your relatable experiences. So Tarun and Craig, I know I played with both of you guys. You guys actually have good serves. You guys, so let's start with the serves. And ask both of you, like, what is your own experience with your serve? Has there been a change of your serve? Do you struggle with some aspects of serves? And if you do struggle with something, what have you done to improve that aspect? Tarun, why don't you go first and then Craig can follow?
Sure. About my own game, I worked my way up from beginner level, 3.0 to right now I'm rated like a low 4.5 in NTRP. So I would definitely say at the start I used to just hit flat serves and then you just bunt the ball in. A lot of people who have been uncoached, they probably start like that, just get the rally started. But over time, I think the biggest improvement to my serve, like in the matches, I would find that first serve I'm just missing the first serve because I'm trying to go at it with high speed. But as I learned the game more, I understood that I need to develop net clearance on the serve. So I developed a kick serve. It took like a couple of months of work with getting a basket of balls and establishing these serve routines drills, and that really helped me because the kick serve really helped elevate my game, and that kind of led to me progressing through the rating system. Definitely say that. And when I got into coaching and I understood the biomechanics of the serve a bit more, uh, from a theory aspect of course, and it is one of I feel it's one of the most important parts of the game. I mean, it comes up again and again, whether I'm coaching on court or I am using our tennis analytics match analytics platform to analyze the serves of whether juniors or adults. It keeps coming up again and again. I wouldn't call it like I wouldn't go the cynic way to say that, oh, we see so many bad things in the serve. I mean, it is a serve. People are developing. People are in different stages of development with the serve. Uh, Definitely, I would say it's one of you have to start. You have to start a rally with a serve, and it's one
It's
thing
a
that
very, don't you think it's also a very personal thing? Like everyone has like their own stamp on their serve, right?
absolutely everyone has their own stamp on their serve, the way they hit it, and it's. I mean, the way they load up, the way they hit it, where it lands on the box, and what are they doing after the serve? That's quite important. So I leave it at that. Just really want to ask the expert view from Craig.
Yeah, I mean the serve, excellent stuff, Tarun. And yes, the serve is very personal. Soham, it's everybody has their own serve routine. So if Tarun and Soham and Craig and Alex, who's not with us tonight, we all could go and do our serve routine and serve, and it looks pretty similar. But when you really break it down into detail, it's quite different and unique to each of us. My experiences, I mean, for 40 something years, playing and coaching, playing in high school and college, grew up watching Becker and Sampras and Edberg and a little bit of Johnny Mack and players like that. And then the game changed quite a bit to, when the technology changed in the late 2000s, or in the late 90s, early 2000s, and the poly strings and the better technology in rackets, the tension started to change a little bit. And you get guys like Leighton Hewitt all of a sudden, dominating and playing well, and smaller guys. Marcelo Rios was good for a while. So you didn't have to be exclusively a big guy anymore to have either a really good serve or a crafty serve. And the technology tended to, even if you didn't have a big serve, you could back it up because you neutralized the return. Now with some of the technology, could neutralize some of those serves. So serving changed a little bit. It became some more spot serving, more consistent serving. If you had a big serve, that was great, but it wasn't necessarily doing the damage it did maybe a decade earlier. The surfaces got homogenized quite a bit, right? So a lot of the surfaces over the last 10 years have become the same. It used to be the French Open to Wimbledon was an amazing feat. When Borg was doing it, certain players were making impacts on both services in the course of 30 days. I mean, now it's not routine because it's still pretty amazing, but it's just changed. It's more you can do it, and it's expected that there's a way to do that. The surfaces are different, but they're not as far opposites as they might seem to be. So technology, personal preference, so many things to go over with the serve. And the one thing I like that you said was that it's not practiced enough. Obviously, the pros are practicing it quite a bit. They're going through all their nuances. But when we have our juniors, when we have our classes, when we have our lessons, even adults, I don't want to say the serve is an afterthought, but the serve becomes, we work on our rally game. Rallying is, the serve starts off, and this is what, gosh, I hope I can articulate this. The serve is the most important shot, but we don't treat it as such, and we need to get back to that. And I think that's what we were alluding to earlier. It's like, it's the only shot we have total control over. Every other shot is a reaction from our opponent. So what I tell my clients is like, hey, especially the junior kids, they get a kick out of this when I tell them, it's like, hey, be the boss. You are the boss on your serve. And you tell a 13-year-old that, it's like, hey, how many times in your life do you get to be the boss? Like 0. Because you got teachers, you got parents, you got coaches. Everybody's telling you what to do. The serve is the one chance, the 3, 5, 7 seconds that you're doing your serve routine, the unique, our own individual process for serving. It's our own. And go out and own it and take your time and be the boss and really make it your own and try to impose your will on your opponent, because that's the only time you really have unfettered impact to do that. And it's critical, and we don't nearly spend enough time on it. So since it's only one shot, I think, even though it has probably the biggest impact, we think, I'm not saying we think on purpose, but I think we fall into this trap sometimes as coaches. Oh, there's a 20-point rally. Well, 19 of those shots are not the serve. So guess what we're going to do? We're going to work on your forehand and backhand and footwork. But we do need to figure out a way to incorporate our serves, into our practice routines with much more detail, with much more importance and heightened awareness than we do now, because I see it in matches. We see it in some of our video analysis lately, guys, right? The videos that our clients are sending in. And again, you can send in your videos to Tennis Hackery, and we'll take a look at them and turn them around, within a few days to a week, and make sure you get some input. But serving is even, and we knew this before, right? We knew serving was an issue, but Tarun, how much has that been magnified in the data analytics? I mean, we knew it from watching and being in the lab with our junior clinics and our junior programs and our lessons. But how much did the data analytics really surprise you?
Yeah, a lot, a lot. I mean, speaking from the analytics standpoint, whether it's juniors or whether it's adults serving, the common trend that we've observed in tennis hackery, I'm just strictly talking numbers, is uh, serve choice. So everybody knows three common types of serve: is your flat serve, your kick serve, and your slice serve. What we have seen is there are lots of huge flat serves being attempted by players as first serves. We see that, so we typically break the serve analysis down to accuracy, like what percentage of the serves, the flat serves that you hit, were actually accurate. And then after that, the next level is once the serve went in, what percentage of the points that you actually won. So some of the statistics show that it is actually the worst for the flat serves. We are of course talking about the not the elite levels of the game. We are talking about developing players, probably between UTR 4 to 7ish. So what we see is with flat serves, the accuracy is the least, and once you actually get the flat serve in, the likelihood of the winning the point is also lesser compared to uh, your kick serves. Kick serves is somewhere in the middle, and we see that surprisingly for slice serves, especially among adults, uh, both the accuracy as well as the likelihood of winning the point after the serve is in is high. So this is the broad trend that we are seeing, and it's quite interesting. So we are actually encouraging our clients to attempt more, go for more slice serves, and if you want to be safe, develop a good kick serve, to give that net clearance and make the ball land in the box and move the ball around the box. So this is the analytics part of it that we've seen.
Great, lot of wonderful insight, both of you guys. Honestly, like this is very helpful for not just me, also learning um, from an analytics perspective, or also like watching the juniors or whenever I play. So I play a lot of league and tournaments, NTRP 50, men's open singles, and all the time whenever I'm looking at these players who are participating in these high level tournaments, everyone has a really good serve. Everybody has a good plan for the serve plus one, and it makes such a big difference because if you're able to hold your serve, then you put pressure immediately on your opponents, um, right? So if my opponents are like really high UTRs, their serves are solid. I can't break their serves, no matter how good my returns are. And then it's my serve, and if I have a weaker serve, which usually is the case relative to these guys, then there's like you're already down. So, and what I tell some of my students is you can't have one and not the other. Like you need to be strong in both, right? Like there are days when your serve is not working. Your first serve is not working, your second serve is not working, then what do you do? Right? So having plans, and one of my friends actually told me, he's actually a really good server. He's on my team. He said that one of the things that you need to do is having pattern serves, right? You can't serve at the same place all the time because it's predictable for the returner, right?
Yep.
So you need to have the ability to change it up, go down the tee, go down body, go body, or go out wide. And for that, it's very interesting what you said that we're finding from these analytics is perhaps the flat serves, people are probably it's easier for them to return because they're used to that. It doesn't have as much spin. It's flat, and you can probably return it back a little bit easier than like a serve which is top spin, which has more kick and spin, or a slice serve, which might be a little bit more difficult to return.
Right.
So from my own experiences, also about myself, is I struggle. So I have a really good return game overall, right? So I'm able to break opponents, but I'm not able to hold my serve after I break, uh, which isn't ideal because then it's back to square one, right? You break, you get broken. You break, you get broken, and that is something that I've been trying to consciously work on. So the next part of our episode, what I want to ask you guys is let's dig a little bit deeper into the serve, right? Step by step. So And one of the things that I have experienced myself, and I have seen some of my juniors, is the ball toss. Um, I have issues sometimes tossing the ball up at the same spot. And it's got nothing to do with there being sun or not. I mean, of course, you have to adjust your position based on if you can see. But I think the ball toss is a critical component of this. Um, and also the shoulder rotation. It's almost like serve. I mean, I think one of the good practices, and Craig, you can back me up on this, is how we throw a American football, right? I mean, that shoulder rotation is actually very an important part of the serving biomechanics. And I want Craig, you might be a good person for this. Is can we break down the components of the serve and where you feel that we probably need to work on, not just me or the regular the tennis players generally.
Right.
Yeah,
Greg, if I may also like add to Soham's question, going beyond that, if you could also kind of elaborate on what are some of the common issues that you see
Right.
in developing players as you describe, these components of the serve. And
yeah.
I'm not. I mean, there are no easy fixes, but your take on these.
Yeah. So whether we're talking about recreational players to USTA players to people in our programs, juniors and adults to the pros, you see serve being worked on all the time, right? So even though we say we want to work on it more, people are trying to work on it. I just think we need to do a better job of really dedicating time to it. So you see Alcaraz, who's changed his serve now in the last year, and his serve has changed quite a bit. So Sinner went from platform to pinpoint, and so the top two players in the world who had each won Grand Slams, who shared number ones for parts of the calendar year, have recently changed their serve. So it's okay to go through, then shifting gears back to the recreational player and the league player and the club player. It's okay to change it. And sometimes we change it proactively because we see something we like. Sometimes we change it because of the things that we're talking about. We see double faults, we see errors, we see maybe incorrect choices, bad ball tosses. So for the ball tosses specifically that you guys talked about, I see those a lot in juniors, obviously, and a lot in our like 3035, rec players, where they're really not. These players, the ladies are taking clinics, or the guys are taking clinics to juniors in their programs. Not a ton of time is being spent on a serve. And I know for me, when I teach like the guys 4-0 clinic, it's like, hey, let's serve, and they're like, they want to hit balls.
Everyone hates to serve.
They don't want to do it, and so it's like, all right, so then what do you do? And you have to make those difficult choices and so forth. So, and what I find in some of the ladies' clinics, it's like the ball toss is, for my clients, the ball toss is kind of all over the place. Same with the juniors. So, learning how to develop a consistent toss. And then if you talk about the three serves, it's like, well, which toss is best for each serve? And then how much time do you want to spend on that? You obviously can't go through 3 in one lesson. You can't go through, you have to work on one, pretty much at a time, and hope those don't get coalesced into, the same serve, over the course of a few different lessons. So releasing the ball at the proper time, which is usually around head, eye level, depending on, how big and tall you are, what serve you're trying to hit. If it's a kick serve, is it going back behind your head on your ponytail or the back of your cap? Is it a clock where 12 o'clock is right in front of you for a flat serve? You have it out at 1 o'clock for a righty, 11 o'clock for a lefty, and giving your players parameters of grace. So maybe they have an internal shoulder rotation that is slightly different. So maybe it's 1:30 instead of 1 o'clock. Maybe they can't get that toss outside and it's only an inside toss. So maybe it's 12:30. And sometimes those things are difficult to comprehend for a recreational player. They're like, wait, 12:30 to 1 o'clock? It's like, that looks like the same time to me. So as coaches, when we talk to our players, we also have to understand that might be a clear delineation for us, but we really have to understand how to break it down. So a toss at 12:30 versus a toss at 1 versus a toss at 1:30, if we're trying to teach a flat serve to make it better and higher percentage, or we want to get out of that and go to a kick serve or a slice serve. How are we really discussing these visuals, articulating it in a way that somebody can understand if they're not a visual learner, if they're more auditory. So there's a lot going on there, and it can take a while. And when you take all those things into consideration, then how much time do we really want to? Does a client want to hear us talk about it? And but we have to make it simple. We have to make it important. And I think getting to that, whatever cookie is for our particular client, I think that's the most important thing. So
Mhm.
we can talk about these broad scopes of things for the serve, the toss, the time, what type of serve, flat serve versus adding spin and more conservatism to that process, sure. But let's get to, if you've got Ashley at 9 o'clock on Fridays, what does Ashley like? What is she good at? What do
Mhm.
we need to get into? What do we need to stay away from? And let's go.
Yeah.
And when you're doing junior clinics or other clinics, it's like, hey, we can't shut the whole clinic down and talk to Susie over here and Jeffrey over there. But what we can do is go over a 3-step process of, hey, it starts with a grip and a stance. We all have to be perpendicular to the net. Our chest needs to be facing, the side fence basically. We have to have the proper grip. So grip and stance are critical. And then, getting that palm down effect, for a racket, even at the lowest levels. Like when I teach the red ball classes, I'm teaching palm down,
Yep.
and these are 5-year-olds. So, and I talk about brushing their hair or whatever it might be. We have to use terminology that is easily understandable. And then a high five, and if the high five turns out to be a bit of a pancake, it does. But it gets at least 1 or 2 parts of the 3 parts of the serve become on the verge of trying to be correct or on the pathway that we want them to get to. So when they get a little bigger and a little stronger and the motion isn't as awkward. Because again, the throwing motion is easy. It's like, oh, it's throwing. But then you put a racket in your hand, and I don't care if you're a 40-year-old adult male gorilla or a 5-year-old kid, it's different. It becomes awkward. And maybe not awkward for all of us, but it just is different. So throwing, it's like, yes, just throw, get that elbow pointed that way. It's great. But then you put the racket in your hand, it just doesn't feel the same. So we've got to come up with ways to groups, 3 easy steps that, we get people serving, get these kids serving a lot of balls, and then you go around and talk to them about what they can do individually. And then in our clients, for our lessons, we have to get to these juniors and these adults and find out what their little nuance is and attack it and really point out the value that it is the first shot of the rally. It's a chance to be the boss, impose our will on our opponent, and then set up the +1. Because you said it, Soham, everybody's got a good serve and a good +1, but if we can make it that much better, or if you're one of those players who is not making the right choices on their first serve, then their +1 is maybe more suspect or more vulnerable. How do we attack that? So, it's a lot, but it has to be dealt with, and we have to make sure it's an important part of, for Tarun's or Soham's or Coach Craig's for serves and +1s. It all might look a little bit different, and that's okay.
No, wonderful. Whether people are using hammer grip or not for their serves, and I think one of the things that Tarun and I were talking about on court once is basically the trophy position, like hips out. And one of the things that came up, whether it's on the second serve or not, but during our while we were doing data analytics and looking at reports from some of our clients, is it seems that there is a lot of folks, juniors, need lower body work, right? For that lift, the bending of the knees, that spring coming from the lower body. Tarun, what have you observed? In terms of the serve, some of the recommendations that we try to fit in under the FFM model, right? The
Yes.
fundamentals, fitness, and the mind.
Yeah. So going back to, so we of course try to kind of break everything down into fundamentals, fitness, and mindset. And I think you're going more into the fitness side of things. So we would highly recommend uh, looking up Dr. Mark Kovach's work on the serve, on the biomechanical side of it. So what we have, so from what we have researched and what Dr. Mark Kovach has put out. So the the serve from the lower body is all about, they talk of these terms like kinetic chain, where every the whole lower, it starts from the ground forces from the lower level, from the lower body, transferring to the core, to the upper, and then into the ball. The lower body is, it's the start of the chain. It's very, very important. And apparently the biggest, and this has been proven scientifically with studies, that the biggest determinant to the serve speed is the weight transfer from your back to the front leg. And because these are the bigger muscle groups, so this is where we like, and the which is basically when you go down and you come up, the hip turns very fast, and that is what determines the serve speed. We'll link more to Dr. Kovach's work in the show notes. So we feel that perhaps kids should train the lower body, especially if you want to develop bigger serves. Craig, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so all very true.
Right.
And then, when you combine that transfer,
Right.
that lower body muscle group power play,
Right.
and then Soham, what you said about the trophy position, and what we found in some of the data, some of the videos that have been sent to us, when players stay under the ball and they do bend their legs, because we had
Right.
some adults who are like, hey, this man is bending his knees, he is transferring his weight, and then all of a sudden his elbow collapses in the trophy position, like way too low, close to his body. So when it works, that kinetic chain, like you talked about, Tarun, has to translate into the upper body. So when the lower body does happen, the upper body does have to follow correctly, and that's why some of this analysis has to be very comprehensive. So when you talk about it with juniors, the good news is developing their base, so keeping their feet from not moving. So what happens with juniors, they'll tend to chase that toss,
Right.
because when we're practicing serves, there's 4 kids on the baseline, 3 4 kids waiting. They have a ball, and what do we not want to see? It's like them, we don't want them to hit a bad toss, but then they're catching a toss and it's like 5 times in a row, and it's like, okay,
Yeah.
go ahead and hit it already, Timmy. And then what do? They move their feet, and they're if you're righty and you move your left foot, you're sunk from power at that point, right? That you can't, back to front is just it's done. So yeah, feet are critical. Keeping those big muscle groups stable is critical. So when we talk about working on our lower body as juniors,
Right.
we have to be clear and we have to be careful. And I think Dr. Kovacs, who I'm a big fan of, if we can spend time as a high performance junior and work on our lower body, i.e., like in the gym and speed, agility, quickness, and things like that, that's fine. If we're doing our junior programs and somebody who's coming twice a week and they take an extra lesson, I think the more realistic approach is keeping that foundation stable and having that hip turn effective. And those are the things that are probably more realistic with a 8, 9, 10, 12, 14-year-old who's not high performance, but they're on the high school team, they're committed, they're playing. I don't know if they have an extra day or 2 to work on fitness and things like that. So if they're going to the park and hitting serves, or they're working on serves and returns with a buddy, I think having a basic stable foundation for the lower body, I think, is more critical than, some of the other things. So, for sure, it has to, translating with the basics, I think, is absolutely critical for 5, 6, 7 years old to juniors to the high performance, for sure.
What about quick question? One last thing on that. Thanks again, Craig. What about the head? Should the head stay stable? Because I see a lot of times the head drops, then the ball hits the net, lower part of the net. I mean, can you talk a little bit about the position of?
Yeah, so you'll see the head fly. Anytime the head gets outside of our feet, it's a problem, right? So it's like, well, Coach Craig, my head's right between my shoulders, and it's like right over my feet. Like, how is it Well, I don't understand. Like, what do you mean it's not like between my feet? So it's like the equivalent of your head over your skis, I guess, when you're skiing.
Yeah.
What happens? So it's sure between your feet, but if it's too far forward, it's too far backwards, too far left, too far right, you're sunk. It might be similar in tennis, where if you get that toss, if you're trying to hit a flatter serve, and all of a sudden that you get a kick serve toss, you're going to try to reach it while your arm and your head are going behind / outside your feet. You've got no chance to follow through to the ball towards your target. So you're going to be, if you're serving in the ad court and you have a 1 o'clock toss and you hit it successfully going for a flat serve, you're going to be following through towards your target, towards the ad court. It's going to look pretty good. If that toss goes behind you and you try to save that, your head's going back behind your body, outside of your feet. You're going to follow through towards the court next to you to your left as your arm goes towards the ad court, and it's going to be a hot mess. And we break that down technically. We broke down a couple of those videos, for some clients where their body rotation. I think we just did one for a young lady too, where her body's going, opening up too early towards the deuce court when it needs to be staying more towards, the side fence. And so whether it's the toss and the swing path or your body opening up too early, there's a lot to unpack, and the head is a big part of that. Now, when you think about that with kids as well, the head is the heaviest and biggest part of their body, right? So that is paramount, that maybe we keep things simple and not so exotic. So if you're dealing with a 3-5 lady, wants to learn her kick serve, go knock yourself out. That's probably fine. If we're dealing with a junior in our programs who are coming twice a week and just taking one lesson, having that head move around everywhere on 3 different serves, let's just get one good solid serve that we can rely on. And if that doesn't work, then let's just figure out a way to get that second serve in. So, I think keeping it simple for these young juniors too, I think is real critical as they start to grow into their bodies and get that head. Right. Again, it's so big and heavy for them as the biggest part of their body. Keeping it simple for the juniors, I think, is important as well.
Right. We talked about, I guess, both the fundamentals and the fitness side of things on the serve. So, Coach Craig, can you talk more about the mindset and some drills to go with it? Like, what would be some good serve drills which our listeners can benefit from?
Yeah, for sure. So I think the mindset is critical. But to be sure, we are talking about serving. Right. And I do think it's really important. One of the most important things to impose your will, to be aggressive, to be mindful and thoughtful and have patterns. But there are players out there who it's like, no, I'll return first. And so I think understanding what type of play you are. So if we're disseminating serve information, understand the type of player you are. And just because we say serve, 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 that's fine. But if you're more of a return-oriented player, keep that in mind as well. It's very important to be thoughtful of what type of game you have. For me, I grew up in a certain era. It was all about serve and serve plus one and serve and volley. Now it's about serve plus one and then mixing up. People are standing so far back for returns, how that comes into play. The court dynamics and geometry are, even though they're technically, factually the same, a lot of the angles and so forth are different. So, I think trying to be aggressive on a first serve is critical, but it's not always with pace. It can be with spin. It could be with intent, what you plan on backing up. If you're playing a Medvedev and he's standing, 15 feet behind the baseline, maybe you just have to throw in a kicker and serve and volley, at 30-15 to get to 40-15.
Or be like Bublik and do underhand serve.
Or do underhand, yeah. So
practice that too. You heard it here.
Absolutely. So the niche stuff is important, but I think if you're talking about the fabric of a service game, being mindful and thoughtful, and we talked about before with patterns, being consistent but not predictable, is critical. So, if you're up 30 love, do you have a favorite serve at 30 love? Then go for it. And I think if there is a pattern there that somebody picks up on, maybe I think it's important to, if somebody's on your 30 love serve, for sure. But if your 30 love serve is a good out wide serve and it's your best serve, can they beat it? And is it just an easy, backhand into the open court then, if you're serving 30 love out wide, or a serve plus one runaround, or a serve and volley, like Fed loves the 30 love and 40-15 out wide. And it's an easy plus one. So, and you get lucky with an ace maybe. So, I think the mindful, thoughtful patterns, are critical for those. So being aggressive mentally and physically, but thoughtfully, I think are super important. The way to practice that is to literally practice that. So, we've done drilling together where we go out and we practice situations and we practice certain point play. And I think it's important that you go out and do that. It's okay to practice 40-15s and 30 loves, or play games against people, and then like your practice partners, and then debrief. It's like, hey, what did you notice? What do you feel like if I'm serving at 30 love, in the deuce court, and we say it's like 5-4, 30 love, you're serving out a set, you're 2 points away. Practice those scenarios and put yourself in those real-time situations and try to see what works and what doesn't. And that way you can rely on, it's like 2 days later, it's like, wow, I just practiced this scenario with so-and-so 2 days ago, and now I'm here. That's kind of a big deal. And that's what, I don't want to compare, our recreational and club players to the pros, but we've watched them practice at Indian Wells. We've watched them practice at US Opens. We've watched them practice at these tournaments. Guess what they do? They practice and grind on scenarios almost all the time. And scenarios for specific players.
Yeah.
They're practicing. So what they do on Tuesday at a Grand Slam against Rublev might be different than Thursday if they advance, against Rublev, and then they're practicing against, a match against Alcaraz. And it's going to be a slightly different process. So, again, always a lot to unpack, for tennis, but mindful, thoughtful routines, I think, is real critical, and sharing and balancing ideas. Don't try to own it yourself. Try to have a practice partner, somebody who's simpatico with you, who's invested. I think is real critical, and they can give you good quality feedback, on what's working and what's not, if you don't have access to your coach all the time.
Oh,
I'm gonna add something really good to your already brilliant recommendation, Craig. That is, I think serves, and I always tell my juniors, serve is that one thing where you can actually go out by yourself and practice it. You just need a court. You don't need another person on the other side. Sure, it's great if you have a returner, but you can actually take baskets of balls, go out there, serve. And what I do is when I'm waiting for a player on the court, my partner isn't here, they're running late by 15-20 minutes, I put like three, 4 cones on the deuce side and the ad side, like down the tee, down the middle, tee serve, body out wide, and I just try to hit the cones. So repeating that, I think, is a good idea, especially because serve is, like I said, one thing that you can work on. And last thing before we jump to the next segment is, single serve and double serves are different.
Yes.
I want to mention that really quick. In doubles, you can serve in ways where you can set up your partner at the net to finish off the point. So communication, whenever I serve in doubles, I always communicate. We do signals, hand signs, figure out what the opponent's weakness is. We try to attack that. We play I formation, Aussie, regular. We just kind of been doing that a lot lately, and it's been working. And when you're up 40 love, hey, you should try like a different formation.
Right.
When it's 30-15 or something, and it's a key point, maybe give your opponent a different look that they're not used to. So just wanted to touch upon really quick, like there are strategies which comes under the umbrella of the FFM model, even in doubles, where you can actually utilize your serve. Now you have a teammate with you who you can work together to try to win points.
Right. Yeah. So, the next segment was going to be about returns, but I think we have this. I think there's so much to unpack about the serves, and I think returns deserve its own episode, in my opinion. So, I think we should double click on what you said, Soham, about the double serve. So, Craig, do you have any mindset or any tactical inputs into the double serve? How different it is from singles? I think Soham
Yeah.
already alluded to the placement and the plan of the serve, but any
Yeah, couple aspects. One thing in doubles, I think in tennis, anytime you always want to attack a weakness, but in doubles, it's those weaknesses are exposed because the court's so much smaller, really. So, um, regardless of what serve you have, maybe that's your best serve.
right?
I think taking into account in doubles where the returner's weaker side is can be a bigger part of that or greater part of the equation because you have somebody at the net who can clean up for you relatively easily if you can keep picking on a weakness. And if somebody's not making an adjustment, those matches don't happen very often. It's like we're not winning a lot of our matches like 2-2 all the time. That doesn't happen a ton. Most of the times where we're going into tough matches, 60, 70, 80% of your matches are going to be tough. You're going to, win some of your matches pretty easily. You're going to lose. You might get cleaned up pretty quickly, sometimes, but 80% of your matches are probably going to be tough. So find those weaknesses, and until somebody changes it and doesn't change, attack it. And so if you have a big flat serve, but somebody is standing 10 feet behind the baseline, that they're going to be able to absorb that and get it back. Just, you might want to try something different to set up your net person. So, if somebody is not making adjustments, you don't necessarily have to go plan B, C, and D all the time and I've got 4 different serves. I'm going to show you, stick with attacking a weakness and make it effective. Then if somebody makes an adjustment, then you make your adjustment and keep them guessing. Patterns still come into play in doubles, but I think to Soham's point, score is really critical. Like if you're up, 40 love, try something new. If you're up 4-1, 40 love, try something and maybe you pull it out again in the second set. So at 5-4, 30 love, go with your best play, please. Don't try anything silly or crazy. And I like the idea of being committed and confident as a team and going for something. And you can go for something aggressive, but as long as it's mindful and thoughtful, I think those things are important. And if you're on the deuce court, like at 5-4, 30 love, if I've got a great out wide serve, then I'm going to use it. If I've got a great T serve, well, that's the lowest part of the net and to the person's backhand if they're ready. Those are all things to keep in mind. And guess what? In doubles, body serve's always a great idea because the opponent doesn't get to extend. We get enamored sometimes with these out wide serves and backhand, but when you have somebody at the net, it's usually to your advantage, i.e., if I'm serving and Soham's at the net, I like that combination because he gets to clean up. But if you're serving wide, you're giving your opponent an opportunity to extend their arms. And anytime you're giving your opponent the opportunity to extend your arms, they can crack a lacket. And if they're a good player at 5-0 or high 4-5 level or what open tournaments, that's going to be something to be dealt with. Yeah. But if you're giving them a body serve, then all of a sudden mentally and physically they're challenged on decision making and moving one way or the other, and they can't extend their arms or their elbows. And then maybe the cleanup is a little bit easier. So, there's some nuance there as well. Always a lot to unpack on the serve, but for sure those things are really critical. And like Soham said, talking all the time in between points is huge. And it might not always be technical. It might be a, hey, buddy, you got this, or hey, a nice pat on the butt. It's like, it's just awesome. Or hey, great swing, no sweat, we got this, whatever it is. But I think all those things are really critical to keep in mind for sure.
Absolutely. And Tarun, I couldn't agree more with your previous statement about, we have so much to talk about serves, but, it's true we can go on forever about serves because it's such an important component.
Absolutely.
But we have to talk about a few things about the return game, because honestly, it's you're reacting to serves.
Yeah.
So I actually want to ask you this question, because I know that you're trying to work on your return game too.
Yep.
That let me ask you this. So so if you're playing singles, it's different. If you're playing doubles, it's a little bit different, right? So in singles, let's talk about singles. In terms of the return game,
Right.
first of all, how confident do you feel in your return game in general? And are you adjusting your return positions based on the serve speed or the type of serve that's coming in? Because I mean, like Craig said, sometimes some people stand way back and then you can kind of change the serve, or some people lean a certain way
Right.
and then you can change the serves. But as a returner, from a returner's perspective, what are you proactively doing before the serve? Like split step,
Yes.
push forward, weight transfer forward? Are
Right.
you taking it early? Can you give me some details about, at least from your return game, like what are the things you're looking for an effective return?
Right. So in my game, it's evolving. So
Yeah.
I'm still working on. So I never used to split step. Before the server. I mean, as the server is tossing the balls, you try to synchronize the timing of your split step, and then either
Yeah.
you walk forward and split, or you just split in. Whatever you do. I did not have that. That's one part that I've added to my game, and it's helping. So whether I'm standing back or on the baseline, I try to do that, and that's helping. But the thing that body serves bother me a lot. So, like what Craig alluded to, because I'm not able to extend my arms, and I'm often making contact awkwardly, often beside me instead of in front. I mean, you should
Mm-hmm.
always aim to have that quickness and to meet the ball in front. But that's one part that I am working on. It's a bit of a struggle. So I would say the biggest thing that I'm struggling with the return is on the forward weight transfer. So I'm not meeting the ball in front, and
Okay.
contact is beside me as opposed to in front of me.
Mm. I've actually, it's funny because
Yeah,
when you and I just played a practice match, I
yeah,
think I did notice
right.
that. And I also tell my juniors, like, you got to take the ball in front.
Yeah,
Your split step, push forward, take it on the rise if you can.
yeah,
That gives your opponent less
right.
time, and especially if you can return deep back
Yeah,
to their feet,
yeah,
then it's a very effective
yeah.
return, right?
Now, but
No.
having said that, so Alex and I agree on our philosophy is if you're struggling with forward weight transfer, if you're struggling with a serve, just lob. So that's one thing that I've got in my game where I try to lob if I'm not.
But is that in singles or doubles, or
Doubles,
doubles
lob
only?
more in doubles. In
Right.
singles, like at the playing at my level, I haven't seen serves that challenge me, like in terms of
Okay.
speed, raw speed. So I'm
Mhm.
able to block the ball, get into the points. But yes, as I evolve, I definitely need to add that forward weight transfer into my returns.
So a person who does that really well is Craig. So Craig, you have a tremendous return of serve, especially like I've seen you on your back single-handed backhand. You take it super early. I mean, I wouldn't call it saber, but you have a really good return, and it's obviously a combination of good weight transfer, footwork, hand-eye coordination, and everything. But what are some of the tips that you can give some of our juniors or adults in terms of return of serves to have effective ground game? Because I know for a fact, whether it's in singles or doubles, putting the ball back in play is so critical. It puts the pressure back on the server, and especially if you get it deep, it's even more effective because now you're on the front foot and you're kind of taking charge of the court positioning.
Yeah. No, it's true. You can't no freebies, because it's just a killer, and we've all been on the court where I know I have been. I play with somebody, and I play some deuce court sometimes, and it's tough. It's the toughest return in tennis for the most part for the single hander, and
Yeah,
you miss a return at like you're returning at 40-15, meaning the server is serving at 15-40, and you're like, okay, I got my break point, and then you dump it, and you're like, and your partner looks at you, and you look at it, and you're like, oh no. It's like, and you want to go for it, and you want to be aggressive, but you want to get the ball in, and you want to put it in play, because that puts the pressure. Obviously at 15-40, the pressure's, the server has to, come up with the goods. You just want to get it back and get it in. So now, whether it's a lob or whether it's getting it back deep or whatever it is, we have said we are going to do a whole episode of that. So I'm going to tease you with, I'm going to answer you, but I'm going to tease it with this. Every shot choice, selection, mindful approach, just like in serving, starts with a routine. So Soham, you have a serve routine, yes or no?
Yeah.
Tarun, you have a serve routine, yes or no?
Yes.
Soham, do you have a return routine?
No, because I am kind of figuring it out during
Fair
the
enough.
match.
Okay, so we're going to talk about that a little bit in the next episode for sure. Tarun, do you have a return routine?
Nope.
All right, so how silly is that? Okay, so how do you have, we coach, we play, we're active, we're teaching juniors. The serve is the most important thing we can do. And we just said how personal it is. And we say we take control of it. We try to impose our will. It's the most powerful thing we can do on the court to start a point. We want to be the boss. Well, we know this. So as the returner, why don't you try to take some of that control back and try to equalize it? Now, you'll never equalize it. I think we go back to one of our previous episodes, Tarun, where we say the server has what's the percentage? I forget. Is it 59% or
Yes,
is it 60?
In the men's game, it definitely high. Yeah.
So, and then after you win the first point, it jumps up to 80. If you lose it, it goes back down to mid 50s, whatever. So we know the server has the advantage. So as the returner, wouldn't it make sense then to do everything you can to be comfortable, to be prepared for everything you can be prepared for before this person serves to you? Well, then establish a routine. And that's what I tell my juniors and my club players. While the server is going through their service deal, they're going back to pick up a ball, and they're going, what do we talk about when we serve? It's like the 5-second rule, right? It's like, okay, after you win or lose the point, you get 5 seconds to like live it or curse or whatever, and then you get 5 seconds to go pick up your ball and take your deep breath, and then you get physically set, and then you get 5 seconds to think about what you want to do on this next point. Okay, it's 30-15 now. I'm going to the ad court. He's a lefty. What do I want to do? If I serve down the tee, maybe I'm going to get a forehand back up the middle. I think I'll do that. Well, are we doing that on the return? And if it's 15-30, and it's like, okay, it's 15-30. This guy doesn't have a pretty good. He's not serving well today. He's probably going to kick one in, or it's probably not going to be aggressive. At least if he goes for a flat bomb, go for it. But the reality, if he's down 15-30, and so we need to be mindful and prepared. And if you have a routine that you're going through, grip and stance, are you timing the split step? And how do we time that? These are all things we'll get into next episode, but you have to have a return routine. And whether you're 8 years old, 18 years old, or 58 years old, if you don't have a return routine, you're not giving your return game enough due. And it's going to be tough. And returning is tough already percentage-wise. We know the math isn't in our favor. And it's already mentally difficult, because when you are talking about big servers out there and then people who serve with spin, it's tough. So next week, or whenever we have our next episode, we're going to go over the exact steps you can take, whether you're me, an 8-year-old, or a club player anywhere, what we can do to take some control back. And there's 3 easy steps for the return routine that you can take some control back from these servers.
Now we have a reason for everybody to tune in for part 2 of this, because it's Tarun, like I said, it's a 2-part episode. The first, obviously, we focus more on the serve. Part 2, we focus more on the returns, and both are equally important.
Yep.
I think both, like I said earlier in the episode, that they're under drilled we don't always prepare as much, and I'm sure like as we do more analytics from our clients, juniors and adults, we'll get to see more and more data for where what's going wrong, what's good with the return game, right? So it's a learning experience for everybody, and I am keen. I wait to hear the three-step process from coach expert Craig Lazarchik next time around.
Yeah, it's just definitely. I'm going to be all ears for it since I don't have a return routine yet. So it's going to definitely going to add to my game. With that, we come to the end of episode number 33. I hope you all enjoyed it. There's lots and lots of nuggets by Coach Craig about the serving, the physical side of it, the mindset side of it, the technical aspects. Is one of it's an amazing episode with lots of information packed in. I will remind everyone about where to find Tennis Hackery on the internet. We are at Tennis Hackery with a Y. You can find us on Instagram, where we are extremely active. We have a Facebook page. The video version of this episode will go to YouTube at Tennis Hackery. Again, is where you can find us on YouTube. The audio version will go to Spotify, but you can look us up on your favorite podcasting reader or app, whether it's Spotify or whether it's Apple Podcast. Just look us up as at Tennis Hackery. Please like, share, subscribe, and comment. Engage with us on all our social media platforms. You can even submit a match review request, a match at tennishackery.com, or you can directly message us on our social media handle at Tennis Hackery with a Y. Thank you so much for listening to episode 33. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Adios.